Alrighty, good morning from Paradise Surfers. We're back with another daily live stream. Reminder, we will be doing these 5 days a week to bring you guys the best of the crypto news, analysis, updates on our alpha calls, updates on surf, life stories, the retreats, everything that we got going on in Crypto Paradise. Join us daily at this time and let's hang out. Let's have a good time. So, all right, we found some good, I think, news stories and relevant discussion points for today. But first, before we get to that, why don't we just take a quick gander at the charts? I know we've been in a bit of a correction territory here the last couple days, bit of consolidation mode. Solana ran to 200 yesterday and is correcting 5%. Big whoop. But I'm sure the Jeets out there are panicking. So I don't know if the charts are telling you anything right now, Nick, whether we're in for a longer consolidation, whether we're going to bounce up out of this quickly, whether the bull market's over. Highly unlikely, but what are the charts saying for us today?
Yeah, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary here. Bitcoin's still in the same range, which I kind of like to see because that allows alts to keep running. But we are seeing some weakness in some alts. But same range for Bitcoin. I expect this to consolidate in between here and eventually can go up to the upside. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Ethereum, it looks like 3643. I mean, this looks a lot like what happened down here. Hit a target zone, consolidated. This was 5 days of consolidation and a 5% drawdown. Right now, you're sitting on a 6% drawdown. So let's see if this gets a little bit deeper. Maybe this will be a 10% drawdown and a 10-day consolidation before the next move. I think ultimately, though, with the Ethereum Strategic Reserve and the ETH inflows we are seeing, that Ethereum does resolve to the upside after this consolidation period and continues to hold this green uptrend line at some point. Solana and BNB were the strong ones. Solana did break out above $200, but giving up most of its gains down to 192. But look, major support here around 183 to 185. You got support on 3 touches. Along with this was the breakout zone. So nothing out of the ordinary for this pullback. Just Solana Jeets jeeting their bags. What else is new there? It's probably pump funds selling Solana here, honestly, because their token is going to shit and they raise all those funds, so they got to keep it afloat, right? Don't know what's going on there. If you were dumb enough to invest in the ICO, you probably don't watch Crypto Paradise. We told you they would do an ICO, would have a short-lived hype pump just long enough so they could sell their ICO and airdrop bags on you, and then people would stop talking about it. And that one has absolutely plummeted. So good luck with that, and congratulations for being a moron. The crowd is watching, the crowd is laughing. That reminds me of like Friends or something, the old sitcoms. And then we had Binance, BNB. Nobody talks about Binance, but it's been breaking out of this range, hit above $800. CZ posted about it for the first time, and now it's back to $784. This is one down in this range. I said it would probably break out to $1,000 before you realize that nobody's talking about it, but you can't fade the machine of Binance. They continue to buy and burn this based off of Binance revenue each and every month. That is what is driving the price here more than anything. And buy and burns are very powerful. It keeps constricting the supply, while the demand, even if it stays the same, it doesn't matter. Price will go up. We're doing something very similar with the Surf token. Get ready for buy and burns based off of DeFi yield to start imminently. Just waiting for that dashboard to get updated to the website so you guys can follow along. And yeah, some stocks. Coinbase seeing a little bit of a pullback. We sold at 396. It's down to 394, but that thing did wake up there. So we are seeing some weakness across the market, but I don't think this is going to be a major dump. I think you need to look at holding your positions here and looking how to deploy more capital on these dips. SBET, great opportunity on a dip here. Of course, we bought it sub $10, but it ran to $42. Now it's back to 25, 27 bucks. But we know they own like 360,000 Ethereum. BMNR, same thing. They've been buying all the Ethereum here. They just had an announcement that Cathie Wood added a large amount of shares to the position. If this thing shows any further weakness down here, sub $40, I'll probably get my first position of BMNR. I'm more of a fan of Joe Lubin and SBT, but Thomas Lee plus Cathie Woods and BMNR probably is a winner as well if you get any further weakness. So, nothing crazy to talk about here. No panic. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, 4% red, 5% red. Well, guys, they ran up 25%, 30%, 60%. So you think everything's going to go straight up? No, you want that, and you want people like you who are panicking to sell out so then we can build a base for the next move higher.
The audience approves. The audience approves of that analysis. Great stuff. I mean, look, yeah, we just ran to all-time highs on, or close to all-time highs on, I think Solana. I don't know what the all-time high was. It's probably pretty close. BNB hit an all-time high yesterday, right? Ethereum just went on a massive run. Bitcoin, massive run, although Bitcoin's just kind of consolidating here. Coinbase at or near all-time highs. So, you can't expect all-time high after all-time high after, and just never a correction, right? You can't think that, And if you're in the markets for more than an afternoon, you realize that after a big run, there's always a bit of a sell-off as people are taking profits, followed by a consolidation period, right? And so I don't know if anyone's panicking right now. They certainly shouldn't be. I think everything's gonna be perfectly fine. The bull market will continue as planned. And for anyone panic selling, I don't know what to tell you. Just hodl on, enjoy the ups and the downs, but hang on to your pants because everything is going much, much higher throughout the rest of this year. And maybe this is a good segue over to one of our lead stories for today. Maybe you can pull that up there, Nick, around the, whether the bull run's going to last longer than historically it would indicate it would. But I do want to touch on something you mentioned around BNB. First of all, BNB is absolutely kind of like stealth running up here. No one's talking about it as far as I can tell. It doesn't have the attention of the degens as far as I can tell. It doesn't have the attention of the institutional buyers, right? I think maybe one or two companies have done, BNB strategic reserve. But why? So why is BNB running? Well, two things. You mentioned the buy and burns, and they've been doing these buy and burns since like the beginning of Binance and BNB launching. I think that was one of their first utilities before BNB chain even existed. Their primary utility, I mean, outside of holding BNB on the platform to get reduced trading fees, the other utility is, hey, we're going to take X amount of our revenue or profit or whatever it is, and we're going to burn BNB on a quarterly basis. They've been doing that for like 8 years. So yes, absolutely, that supply constriction I think has resulted in this run here to a large degree. The other thing that they've done, which I think is underappreciated, frankly, is CZ and I think the other executives and the early buyers, they're diamond handing that shit. Allegedly, CZ owns a tremendous amount of BNB, right? Like, I don't know, 20%, 30%. Like, he owns like a shit ton of this stuff. And he's diamond handing it. He's been diamond handing it since, the very beginning. He hasn't sold any of his BNB. And so when you have that combination, diamond handed early investors, right? And amazing token economics with buy and burns built in, you get these tremendous runs and tremendous charts, even if you don't get outside support, even if the institutions aren't really paying attention, even if retail's not really paying attention. It's just supply and demand. There isn't a lot of BNB in the market. CZ is holding a bunch of it. And so, look, that's a message, I think, for any degen out there. And it's one thing we always ask the projects that we work with, hey, how's the supply control, right? Who's holding on to the supply? Is it in the hands of Jeets or in the hands of diamond-handed investors? Now, is there a perfect way to know whether someone will hold for 8 years? No, you'll never really know until it happens. But there are indicators. So you want to find these projects. If you're in the trenches, right? If you're in low caps, you want to find projects with good supply control and, of course, good token economics. And, of course, I would say Surf checks both of those boxes. We have over, I think, 82 or 84 whales now holding 200,000 and more Surf. They're in the Dow. They're diamond handing it. I think we've had one or two guys exit in the past few months out of the 80 plus that have been there. So these guys are diamond handing it. This is what you want to see when you invest, whether it's a low cap, whether it's mid cap, big cap like BNB, good supply control, and good token economics with buys and burns. So with that, why don't we switch gears to our next topic?
Well, also, I think the thing that you need to mention there is why he doesn't need to sell, because they built so many utilities that he can earn with by holding. You hold BNB, you get airdrops within Binance. You hold BNB, you get staking rewards. You hold BNB for farming opportunities. Like, he can produce yield with that BNB. So that's another thing. You got to look at, what are these tokens, token utility, to be able to diamond hand them? Can you earn yield with them? Can you farm with them? Can you stake with them? Can you earn airdrops with them? Can you get alpha from them? So he's able to capitalize on all that. As one of the biggest holders, he can vote on a lot of things, new Binance listings. He can get ahead of the storm and make money elsewhere, and that's really important to keep in mind.
And also, what's the business behind it? I mean, the business of Binance makes a tremendous amount of money through their leverage trading and their spot trading and everything else. that he doesn't need to sell it because he's like probably just printing like millions every day for himself just on the business operations. So yeah, I mean, look, but Binance BNB, that's a rare breed in crypto. I would like to think that Crypto Paradise, we're trying to emulate some of the best practices. Strong business, not a lot of overhead, don't need to dump tokens, buy and burns, yield, DeFi yield we're generating. So some of the things we're doing, obviously, on a much smaller scale. But yeah, BNB is definitely a brand and company to look up to in crypto, as far as I'm concerned. So congrats to them, $800 BNB. I wish I held more. Um, I know you called that at $9, many years ago. So kudos to you if you held on. All right, so why don't we switch gears here? This story popped up on my feed, and it jumped out at me for a few reasons. One, obviously, Trump buying a shit ton of Bitcoin, that's notable in and of itself. But the suggestion within the article that this may and other factors may result in a longer bull market than we've ever had. I think it's a noteworthy discussion that we should be having. It's something that people within the crypto space need to be thinking about and talking about. I'm a believer that history rhymes but doesn't necessarily repeat. I was always a little skeptical that it was going to be exactly the same as last cycle or exactly the same as a previous cycle. I think similarities, obviously, we have the having to contend with, and that's always sort of dictated what happens in the market and when. But this is a different market that we're in. I think we need to all acknowledge that. Trump obviously buying 2 billion worth of Bitcoin is a part of that, but it's not the whole story. So I guess a couple, you presumably went through this. What were some of your takeaways around the article? And then secondly, like, do you think this bull run's ending in December and January, or you think it extends beyond?
No, I mean, this is something that we've been talking about for months, that this could potentially be the breaking of the 4-year halving cycle. This was before, ETH and alt started running. So people are like, is the halving cycle broken from the beginning? Like, we're not even going to get an alt cycle? And we said, we think the 4-year halving cycle is going to break. But not break in the sense of that there isn't going to be an alt season, in the sense of that it's not going to end in 2025 and probably runs into 2026. And then we'll go day by day and see how long it runs. I think this could be the super cycle. This could be the opportunity of a lifetime, just because you never had institutional demand like this, ongoing institutional demand, spot institutional demand, and now you have ETF demand. And all these people have massive amounts of fiat currency that can go into investments, but also they have a long-term investment mindset. And now that we're seeing things like the Genius Act and the stablecoin bills and all of this stuff going on, we're going to see the Ethereum ETF allow dividend payments. Like, all of this builds up to lots of money, press buy, hold for a very long time, earn passive income on investment, just like we talked about with CZ. They don't need to sell their Ethereum spot ETF if they're making 3% on a speculative asset that's going up 25% year over year. That's outperforming everything that they can invest in, and it's going to be pushed heavily by the institutional market, by the institutional insiders, and you're getting people that called Bitcoin rat poison, like Jamie Dimon, now getting fully behind the crypto space and blockchain space. Why? Because now they can make money on it and can sell it to you if you didn't watch Crypto Paradise for the past 4 years. Now, granted, Crypto Paradise has only been here a year, but we've been on here talking for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, telling you do what they do and not what they say, because behind closed doors, even BlackRock was the same way. They were building positions, they were building infrastructure. Leaks were coming out that this was going to be the future of institutional finance, and now we're here. So if we stay on the same 4-year halving cycle, we talked about it yesterday, maybe instead of an 85% drawdown, you only have a 30 or a 35% drawdown. And in previous cycles, that's just a bull market dip. So we will follow along, but I think there's a much more upside than people can imagine. I'm seeing calls for Ethereum 5,000 top, 6,000 top. That just doesn't make sense to me with the Ethereum Strategic Reserve and the promise from both Joe Lubin and Thomas Lee alone that they want to own 1 million Ethereum per company. That means those two companies alone have to buy 700,000 more ETH each, and now we have a new contender that says they want to get 500,000 ETH. There's only so much ETH to go around. There's only so much Bitcoin to go around. The deflation is underway as retail gets back into the market, and I think there's a lot more upside for a lot longer than people anticipate.
I'm having too much fun with these sound effects.
Crypto Rammer figured out how to use the soundboard.
It's annoying, or if you love it. In any event, yeah, I'm with you, man. And we've been talking about this for a long time. that we do believe this bull run is going to extend farther than, the end of this year. Historically, you would think that, okay, December, January, that would be the blow off top, followed by the big crash, followed by the multi-year bear market. But yeah, everything's changed now with institutions and the politicians, and everyone's bought in now, and the Black Rocks of the world, and so on. We talk about this a lot, so I won't necessarily reiterate everything you said, even though I completely agree with it. And these are all the factual reasons for why it will be extended. Now, the question I think you need to ask yourself is, okay, well, if that's the case, if it's going to be extended, if there are these institutions and there's not enough supply to go around, and does that mean it just goes up forever and there will never be a bear market again? And I don't believe that's the case. There will be a bear market. There will be either black swan events or simply, the fact that the market will get too frothy, it will get too overbought, it will just get too crazy, and inevitably, when that happens, when every Tom, Dick, and Jane is just buying into crypto, they're talking about crypto, you can't help but hear from everywhere you go. The barber's talking about it, the taxi cab driver's talking about it. That's normally the signal that the top is close or here. And then the crash happens. But why does the crash happen? Well, normally what happens in crypto is when there's a massive run, every Tom, Dick, and Jane starts to want to make a coin. And it's easier than ever now with Pump Fund, right? It's absolutely easier than ever. And ultimately, there can get to a point, and there does get to a point, where the supply of new coins far exceeds the demand for said coins. And those new coins and the old coins, they start to fall in price, right? And it becomes a cascading effect. It becomes a fear-based sell-off. Emotions take over, just as the emotions took over on the way up when everyone was in full-blown mania. We're going to be rich forever. We're retiring on the beach tomorrow. The emotions take over on the flip side when things start to go down after there's been way too much supply flooding the market. So I do think that's going to happen. I do think there's absolutely going to be bear markets again. There's certainly going to be altcoin bear markets, right? We need to distinguish between those two things: Bitcoin bear markets and altcoin bear markets. Altcoin bear markets are much more prevalent and they're much longer lasting. In fact, that's the kind of the normal state of existence when you're in altcoins. Maybe a few runners here and there, maybe something does well occasionally, some category does well for a month or two, but oftentimes in the altcoin market, it's down and to the right or just stagnating. Bitcoin's a little bit different, as we know, but either way, there will be bear markets hitting both altcoins and Bitcoin at some point. Now, whether the drawdowns are as severe and long-lasting as before, I don't think that they will be as severe or long-lasting. I don't know if you see a 70% correction on Bitcoin unless there's a tremendous and terrible black swan event that occurs, like we kind of intimated at yesterday. But to me, 30%, 40%, that's sufficient to be considered a bear market. It may last 3 months, 6 months, even 12 months, who knows? And that will scare away a lot of people at the time. The diamond-handed folks will still be here, of course. But yeah, the institutions will make these drawdowns less severe, I think less long. But there absolutely will be a bear market. I don't think it happens in January. I don't think it happens in January. It may be middle of next year, right? We have a lot of catalysts throughout 2026 that I think people are not really appreciating. The biggest one, and perhaps this is a good segue to our next story here, is that the term of Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, is ending in May of 2026. And
Yeah,
you better believe
before we
Trump
move on
is.
to that, I just got a DM. Charlie Lee just finished a interview. This pertains to predictions of the Bitcoin cycle. He is famously known for selling the top on Litecoin in 2017. Some of you guys might not have been around there. Yep. The founder of the second largest, third largest crypto at the time dumped on your head, calling the top, and he kind of dwindled into the background until he's starting to come back this cycle. He's going to be on the board for a Litecoin strategic reserve or something. But now he is kind of saying something similar. His targets are low, but he has Bitcoin price targets of not just 2025, but 2025 to 2026 because he believes that due to the macros, it might roll over into 2026 and not stop in December. His base case is 150,000 Bitcoin. His bull case is $200,000 to $300,000 Bitcoin. He believes most of the bullish catalysts have already occurred. Market just needs to catch up. Now, this is what's interesting. He is bullish on Bitcoin He's cautiously neutral on Ethereum. He thinks ETH price is elevated without matching news slash catalyst, even though there's been 2 million Ethereum bought by strategic reserves and more Ethereum inflows per capita than there has been for Bitcoin. So I don't agree with you there, Charlie Lee. Go look at your data, buddy. If somebody wants to buy a dip on SBT. But the reason he has concern over Ethereum is competition from Solana, BNB, and others, which makes some sense. But anyways, there you go. Charlie Lee notably sold the exact top in 2017 and dumped on your head. A Litecoin founder says that he thinks the Bitcoin bull market could go into 2026 with a bull case of 200,000 to 300,000 Bitcoin. Interesting. Thanks for the DM. Buy PTGC Bitmeat 786 on Twitter.
Oh, cool. Someone watching the live stream giving us some data. Appreciate that, bud. Yeah, Charlie Lee, founder of Litecoin. I don't take him that seriously. I don't think he's some notable analyst or something like that. Yeah, he called the top. He got something right once. He did found Litecoin, but Litecoin's pretty much pointless. Like like arguably most crypto coins out there. But yeah, I don't know if I buy into his analysis any more than any other Tom, Dick, and Jane who's in the industry. So who knows? He might be right. I disagree that Ethereum is overbought. I mean, that's a completely ridiculous take. But he's obviously talking his bag. He probably wants people, buy Litecoin instead. The industry's going to run, Litecoins, digital silver, whatever nonsense he's going to tell people. But it's not going to work because people know Litecoin is basically pointless. In any event, I do think the bull run is going to extend into 2026. And that's a good segue, I think, over to our next story. And you guys know we like to talk macros on this channel. We like to talk about the big picture catalysts or headwinds that affect the markets. And obviously the Fed is arguably one of the biggest players in that macro game. And they have a meeting coming up next week, right? July 29th, I believe, is a meeting, July 29th and 30th. They will meet. They will decide whether to cut rates, whether to increase rates, or whether to hold pat. And, for the past month or so, I had been reading that people were, sort of betting, hey, there's a pretty decent chance, maybe 25% chance of a rate cut this July. The numbers have gone down. Those who bet on these things are guessing no more than a 5% chance of a rate cut in July, at least according to this article. And that would then lead us to September because there's no August meeting. And then the question becomes, what do they do in September? But I guess, Nick, for you, does Powell capitulate to Trump and cut rates a little bit? Give us a little catnip for this this meeting, or does he say, tariffs? We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know what's real and fake with Powell. You hear, he's going to do a resignation letter. Then you hear that, DOJ is going after him for something that he did illegally, overspending on federal building upgrades like $2.5 billion, all kinds of crazy stuff. So I don't know what's real and what's fake. What I do know is the goal was sub 2% inflation, and the inflation went below 2%. So you should cut the rates. I also know that our country is trying to cut down on national debt. We have to refinance a large sum of our debt coming soon. So as the global reserve currency of the world, with all of the power, with the biggest financial markets, don't you think we should probably manipulate that in our favor, even if you want to re-raise rates after that? Don't you think we should refinance that at 2% or 2.5%, then 4.5%? I mean, that makes logical sense to me for the country standpoint and for the national debt and the interest that us as taxpayers have to pay. But, who am I to say, he wants to have a political bias is what my opinion is. But nonetheless, there is still a betting market that says 2 to 3 rate cuts this year, and they're running out of time to make those rate cuts happen. So we've been saying, yes, we think probably September is when the rate cuts happen, but the data keeps coming in and keeps saying unless they move their goalposts, they should be cutting rates. Even if it's a 0.25 basis point cut, that will still suffice, shut Trump up a little bit, and help American citizens a little bit on their debt or any new debt that they want to incur. Also, with there only being a 5% chance now, if there is by chance a rate cut in July, you can expect some massive God candles to happen on all markets because the masses are not expecting it anymore.
Let's go God candles. Let's go God candles. It ain't going to happen, though, guys. I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. Not this time around because, Powell has his head up his ass. They are very, outside of a few, by the way, there's a few governors, Fed governors, right? The Fed is a body, I believe, of 9 individuals across these various governorships. They are housed in different Federal Reserve outposts in different cities. There's like the governor of Atlanta, San Francisco, blah, blah, blah. Some of them are defecting, actually, is what I'm reading. But again, you don't really know what's real. There's a lot of rumors. I don't think the DOJ is going to go after him for, because the Fed spent too much money building out some building. I don't think Trump is going to fire him either. I think it's just going to be a kind of constant drum beat of pressure to get him to cut rates even nominally, which I think would be the right move. I mean, I think a small 25 basis point cut sends the right message. Hey, Fed is going in the right direction. They see that inflation has been under control, is mostly under control. The tariff fears in terms of causing a bunch of inflation never really materialized because Trump, chickened out or cut deals or whatever you want to call it. By the way, they just cut a deal with Japan, which looks pretty damn favorable from my standpoint. 15% tariffs on Japanese goods coming into the United States, and Japan apparently opening up their auto market to the U.S. So good deal there from where I'm sitting anyway, as a non-trade expert. But yeah, Powell should cut the rates. I don't think that they will, but I don't think it's the end of the world, right? Because look what just happened, right, with the markets. Everything ran tremendously, even with high rates. Even with the tariff fears kind of percolating in the background, we still had a tremendous run on Bitcoin, still had a great run on Ethereum. Alt season's waking up, so it's not really the end of the world that rates are as high as they are from a market standpoint. And then we'll look forward to September. It reminds me, frankly, of last year. Last year was kind of similar, right? Like we were like, cut rates, all the market participants, cut rates, cut rates. Didn't happen in the summer. They held pat. They kept the rates very high in the summer. Granted, it was a different set of macro data points coming in. And then September came around, and they did the jumbo cut, right? And then I think they did another jumbo cut in either October or November. They did multiple jumbo cuts of 50 basis points last year, starting at the end of the year. So we could very well see that, right? We could very well see too late Powell being too late once again, not doing a small, reasonable cut here in July, but waiting, something then breaking, something the labor market. I think the labor market is not in great shape, and there's plenty of data points to indicate that. Something could break, and then by September they might say, oh shit, we're too late again. Jumbo cut incoming, 50 basis points. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out. I don't think the good news is from a trader standpoint or market participant standpoint. I don't think it really makes a whole heck of a lot of difference. A non-rate cut, right? Standing pat, as I like to say, is priced in. It's already in the expectation, and so if they comply with the expectation, there's going to be no market panic, no market sell-off. Now, of course, if they were to unexpectedly raise rates, that'd be a different story. They're not going to do that. If they surprise us with a 25% basis point cut, and then we see that God candle like you're saying, so that would be wonderful, but I'm not expecting it. But my overall take is it doesn't really matter, and we are going to get rate cuts sooner or later, and at that time, we will have those God candles, so just be ready.
Yeah, and it's just interesting because it's like, oh, that's what they did, those jumbo cuts at the end of the year last year, and it's like, oh, that's interesting timing. What was happening right after those rate cuts were happening? The presidential election. So that's why my thesis that this is all political, sadly, because you're messing with the number one fiat currency in the world. But I mean, it just lines up. Oh, we did cuts right before a presidential election to favor one candidate over the other, and now we don't want to do cuts even though our goal was sub 2%, and even though it makes sense data wise to do cuts. And the market's been telling you, hey, we need 3 cuts this year. And so far we've had 0, and now there's a very small chance of it happening in July. Nonetheless, it is coming. I hope it's not through any kind of chaos, because markets don't like chaos. So I don't want him to be fired. I don't really want him to step down. I just want him to go out there, say this is the data, this is why we're cutting, and move on. But we'll see how that goes. Also, we have a comment here from YouTube. Yaksha says, is crypto risky? And my reply is all investments are risky. Life is risky. You just got to take educated risk, and hopefully by tuning in here to Crypto Paradise, we can get you in some big gains, some good projects, and let you know what's going on in the broader scale of things so you're not selling lows and buying tops.
Yes, crypto is risky, and if you don't know what you're doing, you'll probably get wrecked for the first go around. My take on crypto is there is a learning curve. It's not actually that simple. People think it's so easy and this and that. Very easy to get wrecked because there's so many scams lurking around the corner if you're in the certainly if you're in the like low cap degen sector of like pump.fun and Solana, etc. If you just want to invest, by the way, I forgot the name of the viewer who made the comment. If you just want to invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you want to hold it for 10 years, it's actually not that risky at all. But outside of that, you start to do low cap, start to do the altcoins, it does get risky. So that's why you want to follow channels like Crypto Paradise. We've been in this space for, I don't know, collectively like 30 years between myself, Nick, and Nate. We've been through a lot, seen a lot, been scammed, been wrecked, been through all those growing pains, and we kind of then impart some of that knowledge to you guys. And not that we always get it right, as I like to say, full disclosures, do your own research. We're a resource, but we're not the be all end all. But yes, if you want to just buy and hold Bitcoin and Ethereum for 10 years, I actually think it's probably still, from a risk return perspective, Bitcoin and Ethereum 10 to 20 year time horizon, it's going to outperform the S&P 500. It's going to outperform real estate, and it's probably going to outperform any altcoin or any other type of investment you may have. And so from that standpoint, the two majors, Bitcoin and Ethereum, 10-year, 20-year time horizon, actually not risky. If you want to dip your feet into the altcoins, if you want to try to get rich quick, well, of course, the degree of risk dramatically increases, and that's why you got to follow Crypto Paradise. Hopefully get yourself into the DAO as well. That's the whale group that we have. We go in on deals together, we share alpha together, and we're making a lot of money this cycle together. That's where the real magic happens. But yeah, crypto's risky, but we've been in this space 3 cycles. My first cycle got wrecked, got destroyed, did all the mistakes. Second cycle did pretty well. This is now my third cycle and expecting to do very well, finally. So to me, it does take 2 or 3 cycles to actually do well in this space. But you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere.
We got another comment here from Homer. Is it wise to put money into crypto now, or is it too late in the game? We are very early in crypto. Now, obviously, Bitcoin has ran a 7x off the low. Ethereum has ran a 2x off the low. Solana just hit all-time highs. BNB just hit all-time highs. But we still think there's a lot of opportunity. You just got to know where to go. Now, if you just want a 2x, you can buy Bitcoin here. But that's why we've been switching, saying, hey, rotate your Bitcoin into Ethereum. You're probably going to outperform due to the Ethereum strategic reserve plus passive income opportunities with Ethereum. We also believe that Pulse Chain, it was a snapshot of Ethereum, EVM compatible chain. New layer 1 has not been through a bull market yet. A first cycle layer 1 always does well. Even Polygon did well. Arbitrum did well. Now, there's different varying degrees. Of course, we want it to be a BSC, a Cardano, a Solana, so we will see. But getting over to Pulse Chain with some of your Ethereum at these levels, you are only about 90% off the low for Pulse Chain. Hasn't gone through a bull market. Isn't even on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap yet. So I think there's a big opportunity there. And then, of course, we talk about various altcoins that we like and we think you can do well on. If you follow along, it seems like you're new to the channel. We just called Fuck 9 to 5. That's up 22x. We called Dose. That's up 8x. And we're going to have other calls coming. So maybe not FOMO into those right now, but put them on your watch list. Tune into here. Check out our feed. Check out our personal feeds, and you can kind of get a feel of what assets we're buying, what assets we're holding, what assets we're staking. And I think you are very early to crypto, and you're also very early to this cycle. Altcoins are just starting to warm up.
Yeah, look, I think for me, you can do crypto a few different ways. You can be a fair weather crypto participant. You can only come in when the market's super bullish, and you can buy certain things and hope for the best. You probably won't do that well, frankly, if you're just kind of fair weather fanning it, right? Crypto, if you really want to do well, does take some time. It takes some dedication, but it's also not that complicated once you sort of understand those basic things and spend maybe 3 to 6 months, learning the ropes, understanding DeFi, understanding how to make swaps on decentralized exchanges, following channels like Crypto Paradise, trying to get into some early plays. You may not do that great your first cycle, and I just said this, right? And that's okay. You don't have to become a millionaire overnight. I don't believe in get rich quick. It doesn't really happen to anybody. You may watch the media and some meme coin trader turned $100 into $1 million or whatever. Well, that guy probably has been in the trenches for 2 years. He didn't do it on his first day. So the fact of the matter is, you need to look at this. You should look at this anyway as a long-term opportunity for yourself to change your life with the financial markets. There is no faster or I think more democratic way to change your life through investing than crypto. Crypto is the best way to do it, but it's going to take time. It's going to take dedication. It's going to take some risk tolerance. It's going to take getting wrecked a handful of times. But if you watch this channel, if you do some research, if you follow good people in the space, slowly but surely you will learn. And my guess is, after a handful of months, or maybe it'll take you a couple of years, you can and will materially change your life financially if you do some of the right things, you pay attention, you wisen up, and you actually are active as possible. So that's my recommendation to you, my friend. You are not too early. Crypto is going to be here for the next 1,000 years. It's going to evolve. It's going to change, right? But it's not going to be any different than the stock market, which is also here for 1,000 years. So, assuming humanity exists that long. All right. So, yeah, stay locked in, bud. You're not too late. Um, I wanted to touch on this one because, first of all, shout out to Ozzy Osbourne. What a beast! What a beast! I was reading about this guy's life story yesterday because I was curious. I used to be into, I had went through a little like Black Sabbath, heavy metal phase back when I was like eighth grade or whatever. So kind of got into Ozzy at that time, but didn't really know his life story too much. I mean, this guy's crazy, right? Like this guy was on all the drugs, just boozing every day, womanizing, all the rock star stuff. Snorted a line of ants one time, just crazy shit, right? Bit off heads of bats. But really, he was actually a family man. And I don't know, I say funny, almost tragic thing about it is he didn't really die from complications related to years of drug use. It was more related to a fall that he had. He was driving like an ATV or some sort of vehicle in his backyard in England or some shit and fell off and hurt himself. And the complications of that sort of ultimately led to his early death. Allegedly, that's what the story is. So, anyway, stay off ATVs. Is my lesson. Um, but the notable thing about this story from a crypto standpoint is, of course, we saw a bajillion pump fund plays come out. I stay away from those. Anytime like something big happens in the media, you have a million meme coins popping up. Aussie coin or whatever. 100 out of 100 of those are rugs. They will not last. They'll be gone in a day, a week, whatever. And that's what they're designed to do. If you want to play that gambling game, go ahead. You'll probably lose your money, and you won't be able to compound any gains, which is a sad thing. So stay away from those. But the more interesting thing, I think, is that apparently an NFT popped up, an Aussie-related NFT, crypto bats, that apparently did very well. And this led me to think, are we like coming up on another NFT season? Could it be? Could NFTs be coming back? Of all things, of all things. And I think most people got wrecked investing in NFTs, and I think they're not good investments, to be perfectly frank with you guys. But do you think that they're coming back? Does this sort of lead to a catalyst? Are we in a market where NFTs are relevant again? What's
Yeah,
in
I
your
mean, they
opinion?
have been coming back, at least the best ones, the ones that have utility. You see Gary V with his V Friends NFT, they just launched with Topps Chrome, a real life trading card. And I collect Pokemon cards and trade them and buy them and sell them, whatever. V Friends has done very well. It's already up like 3x. If you can find them in the stores, buy V Friends Top Chrome. If you find them, buy them. You will make money on them. Anyways, their V Friends NFTs have gone up because, what do you know, the NFT holders got airdrops of these cards. We've also seen Pudgy Penguins NFTs doing very well because now they have a token. Pudgy Penguin holders got the Pengu token, and now that the founder guy is hinting at another Pengu airdrop coming for some kind of new token or some kind of new Pudgy Penguin related airdrop. Obviously, this Ozzy Osbourne one, I think this will be a short-lived surge unless his family steps in and like gives away some kind of memorabilia. But you also have the largest floor sweep of D Gods that has happened in a very long time. I don't know the exact numbers, but look up D Gods floor sweep. That was a really popular one. Obviously, a lot of people don't like Frank and what he's done with the brand, but there's a massive floor sweep, which is putting on speculation on what's going to happen there. So NFTs do have life, but it's only few and far between collections and collections that provide utility. And that's something that we've been preaching. We've been part of a couple NFT collections. Like Dead Prez, which was doing very well, and the NFTs are still live. The casino just doesn't have enough revenue to pay those holders. It's like if you have a utility, people want to buy the NFTs, and they surged on the speculation that their utility was going to be monthly yield. It hasn't happened yet, so prices slowly dwindled off. Can they turn that on? Maybe, but if your NFT has a IRL claimable attribute, whether it's cryptocurrency digitally claimed to your wallet, whether it's IRL events, whether it's IRL gifts, products like we saw with VFriends, that's where the value comes in, not the scarcity of this digital picture itself.
Yeah, I like that take. That does make a lot of sense to me. I've always been very skeptical of NFTs as a whole. only because I think they're highly illiquid, right? It's hard to sell them. It's not like a token where you can just dump it on a decentralized exchange. You have to find an actual buyer of the thing. So it's pretty convoluted and it's a highly risky thing. I also think that outside of the ones with utility, outside of the ones that are attached to a major brand or person like Gary Vee, who's a super famous guy now, obviously in the world of tech, etc. But if you're just talking about those general collections that are more art based, I think there may come a time when everyone in crypto's gotten so rich that they want to start investing in silly things like bragging rights in the form of a digital collectible. That's essentially what Bored Ape Yacht Club was, right? And these others. It was a bragging right within Web3. Oh, I have so much money that I can spend 100 grand on a JPEG, right? That's my skeptical kind of asshole take. I'm sure people love them and oh, they're the best, whatever. But my take is okay. They were a flex. They were a digital flex, and there may come a time when the market is so frothy and so bullish that these digital flexes come back. It's like art, right? Who buys art? Really rich guys, because they got they already got tens of millions in the bank, whatever. They just buy art. Art. It's a picture. I mean, dude, I can get one. Look at this thing. I got it for like $5 on Fiverr. Anyway, I digress. I think NFTs may come back when the market is extremely frothy. I do not think as an actual investment, like if you're like, I got $5,000, I want to invest into crypto, and I want to make as much as I can off my $5,000 this cycle to do something meaningful with my life, maybe pay off my student loans, or down payment on a house, or buy that engagement ring for your girlfriend, whatever life goals you may have, right? Money is means to an end, after all. I think there are many, many better investments than NFTs. But if you're already rich as fuck, or if for some reason you love Gary Vee, and you want to, you treat it like another collectible you may have, you really like it, but you're not viewing it necessarily as an investment to do a 10x, I think there is a place for that. But I don't know. My take on NFTs is, probably better to invest in tokens if you're just trying to multiply your money.
I'd probably agree with you there. Well, we've kind of covered everything. We can look at the charts again. The consolidation continues here. Ethereum 3600. Nothing out of the ordinary. We said maybe a 10% drawdown this time in consolidation versus the 5 that we just saw on the way up. Let's show
This
this.
is a great time. Like for those,
and here you go. 3,400 would be 10%.
So after this big run on Bitcoin, and after Ethereum just went up, we see now that new people who are not already interested or exposed to crypto, their interest is peaked. Their interest is peaked. Now, historically, retail doesn't really start to come in and invest until 3 months into a bull run. So maybe we have another month or two before retail finally starts deploying capital. Their interest is peaked, but they're not yet deploying capital because they're still, doing research and wondering, should I do it? Is it too risky? Blah, blah, blah. You, our dear listeners, especially if you're new, this is actually a great time for you. If you are looking to get into some of the blue chips, right? If you're looking to buy into ETH, why not? It's below its all-time high, right, of 4,800. Bitcoin, we know, is 2x higher than its all-time high. So I don't know how much more can it run. Maybe 2x, we'll see. Ethereum is undervalued relative to where it used to be, relative to where Bitcoin is, relative to its fundamentals, relative to the fact that all these institutions are buying billions of it. So to me, if you want to be a smart sort of, like I say, early adopter, maybe that's not the right word because we're not necessarily early, but if you're newer to crypto and you're like, oh, I'm on the fence, it looks good, whatever. Ethereum, man, so juicy right now. So juicy. It's almost guaranteed to go back to its all-time high. So that's a 2x. It's a little less than a 2x to 5,000 from here. And it's likely, very, very likely, going to go higher, just like Bitcoin went much higher than its previous all-time high. So, don't be that guy who waits 2 or 3 months and I need absolute verification that this, market's going higher. That's what a lot of retail and new people do. I need absolute guarantee that it's going higher. Take a little bit of a risk. Get in a little bit early. Get a little bit early next time. And I promise you, in 3 or 4 months from now, you'll be happy that you bought it at 3,600 and not 4,500 and not 5,000, because that's where it's going, and that's what's going to happen. Most people will end up FOMOing in, right? They're paying attention now. They're not going to pull the trigger yet, but they will end up FOMOing in at 4,500 or 5,000 or 55 or 6,000. Don't be that guy. Take a little bit of risk. In
Yeah, we
worst case,
got we
black
got
swan happens, your price drops, and you got to hold it for 4 more years and eventually be higher than.
we got Liquidity Unchained here saying if he had 5,000, he'd put 1K into Punk, 1K into Wojak, and 3K into SPX 6900. Well, there you go. That's a meme coin portfolio for you right there. Now, we don't own any of those, but I will say SPX 6900 was kind of the leader for the movement coin narrative that we're doing very well on now. So shout out to the OG SPX 6900. And that allowed us to invest in Fuck 9 to 5 on Solana, Dose on Solana, and we are looking at a couple other movement coins at low market caps looking to pump to the Z Moon, like Liquidity Unchained just said. Yeah, everything that you just said is good there. I would tell people if you have stock money, because people are like, oh, can I get in crypto as a tool? Well, okay, let's get crypto related stocks. Look for a deeper drawdown on Coinbase. I still think it's probably too overpriced here. We still at 396. It's 394. Keep an eye on GameStop, kind of a meme-fi stock play, but they do have a shit ton of money, like $6 billion in cash, 500 million in Bitcoin, and they're hinting at some new upgrades to their stores. And then, of course, if you believe in our Ethereum play, but you only have stock money, or you don't have enough money in ETH, or you want to, limit risk a little bit just on ETH alone, keep an eye on this dip on SBET and BMNR. I said anything below $40 at the beginning of the show. Now we're below $40. I mean, if it breaks that previous low of $37 and they are buying more Ethereum, you probably want to buy it. SBET, same thing. This is looking like a perfect drawdown. Filled the gap on the CMA. There's another CME gap here at like $23. We're at 25 right now. That will be a nice, safe setup as they continue to buy and earn more Ethereum. And for right, Ethereum goes to 5K, 10K, 20K. Well, these are going to be the big darlings, the micro strategies of Ethereum
plays,
this cycle.
right? Those are safer stock-based plays. Some people are into those, some people are not. I want to go back to what that gentleman said around his, ideal portfolios, ideal meme portfolio, because I completely disagree with him, by the way. And I mean this, with total love and respect. But I actually don't think it makes sense to invest into memes that have already hit billions. Like, why do you invest into a meme, right? Like, if you want to invest something with, because think about it, right? It's going to take a tremendous amount of new capital coming into the SPX 6900 for it to do a 2x. For you to simply double your money, it's going to take a lot of economic energy. It's going to take a ton of new whales and a ton of new money coming into that project for it to do even just a 2x. Forget a 10x. Once you're at a billion, it's very hard to do a 10x. Not impossible, okay? It could happen. But for my money, I'd rather find an undervalued, low cap meme that has similar characteristics, perhaps, right? That maybe has kind of a similar narrative, or you see that the team is quite professional, or you see that there's good volume, and you see that there's a lot of mentions and activity on social media, but it's at 1 million market cap. 5 million, 2 million, right? Because the chances and the ability for it to go much higher and do that 10x. Now, let's be honest, you're not looking for a 2x. No one's in memes just like, oh, I want a 2x. If you want a 2x, go invest in some of the big cap utility plays that are not memes, which are much higher risk. If you're looking for a 10x, which everyone in the meme world is, or a 100x, you have to find the lower cap ones. Now, I'm not saying go to Pump Fund and go to the casino and just invest in the next 10 coins that are launched in the next 10 seconds. Find some good ones, undervalued ones, maybe that remind you of SPX 600, maybe reminds you of Bonk, maybe reminds you of this or that, and buy and hold for a bit. It's going to take a little bit of time. These things don't normally 10x in a day, but it may 10x in 2 months, 3 months, right? I just think, I don't invest myself into big caps or even mid caps, because I feel like the upside is less and there's still plenty of downside risk. You can still lose 50% quite easily, right? And the chances and the ability for it to do a 10x is lower. So if you're just looking to invest $500 or $1,000 in something, you got to go and play in these lower cap realms if you can mitigate the risk.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, I think we covered a lot today, a lot of news, a lot of charts. Thank you guys on both Twitter and YouTube for your comments. Maybe we don't see them all. Riverside gives us some of the comments, and we try to get to the ones that are relevant. And I think you can kind of round us out and hit us out the door. And then hopefully we get an intro going soon. We got the original Crypto Paradise theme song we're going to try to get on here. We got a community member who made a kick-ass surf song, beachy vibes. So we're going to try to get that intro there to allow more of you guys to funnel in, vibe out, and allow us to get started into these shows so you don't miss any of the content.
I'm just seeing these comments here through Riverside. Pretty cool. Great having you guys on today. We'll be back tomorrow. New news, new analysis, new funny moments. Who knows? Maybe we'll have another celebrity die tonight. Let's hope not, but we'll see what happens. R.I.P. Ozzy Osbourne. That guy was an absolute legend. What a G. People should read about him. But yeah, great stuff today. We'll be back tomorrow. And until next time, guys, we'll see you on the beach.